Welcome to our talk on ethics training, cultivating an ethical engineer identity. This presentation and this proposal and research have been sponsored by NSF. My name is Susan LeFrancois. I'm with Florida Polytechnic University. I'll be one of your speakers today. Included in the team for this research proposal are Dr. Elaine Englehardt, Dr. Michael S. Pritchard, who are both philosophers with a concentration in engineering. Dr. Grisselle Smith is an anthropologist. Dr. Michelle Hughes-Miller is a sociologist. And my fellow speakers today are Dr. Kingsley Reeves and Dr. Grisselle Centeno. All of us are faculty members in STEM fields.
Our research is motivated by current events, both internal to our institution and events that we see in the practice of STEM professionals. Namely, we have students who have demonstrated ethical lapses in terms of the performance of their work, including some who had rather egregious lapses, yet went on to participate in our engineering oaths, where they declared they would go on to be very ethical practitioners of the engineering practice. Further, we see examples in the Volkswagen emissions case, where we see engineers and other STEM professionals who are practicing their craft and demonstrating unethical practices. And the question is, how can we do a better job in academia of developing more ethical engineers? The theoretical framework that's guiding our efforts, our particular intervention, is shown here. It's a simple input environment output model. The input here are our students. They come in with individual characteristics and specific attitudes and prior beliefs and behaviors. They enter the academic environment where they are exposed to academic training, where they become future STEM professionals. But this isn't limited to the formal academic setting. They are also exposed to the practice of engineering and other STEM fields as they interact with practicing engineers, oftentimes during their internships. So as they're transformed in these two environments, it is our hope that they exit as professional STEM practitioners with strong ethical and moral compasses. We have two research questions. Research question one basically says, to what extent can involvement in professional engineering or STEM ethical training transform these students as they enter our environment? To what extent can we change those prior beliefs so that they have a stronger ethical grounding? And research question two really speaks to our intervention, and it's how might instruction in professional engineering ethics coupled with co-curricular internship experiences enhance the development of a strong professional engineer identity.
To execute our project, we will be working primarily with students that are getting ready to get deployed for their internships. At Florida Poly, all students are required to complete a professional internship prior to graduation. That typically happens towards the end of their junior year. To participate, the students will have to consent to the study and complete a survey. The survey will allow our research team to gauge the ethical composition of the students prior to implementing our interventions, and also afterwards, as it will be administered twice. There is no cost for the students, and there is a $50 compensation for the time that they agree to participate. For this study, we introduce a concept that we have labeled as enhanced student internship, which is comprised of an in-class workshop focused on critical analysis of ethical case studies. That workshop will take place prior to the students' engagement in their engineering internships. And after the internship, there is a post-internship workshop that will focus on the ethical dimensions of their internship experiences. Students will be asked to submit an essay on STEM ethics before the first workshop, to journal about their ethical experiences while they are taking or participating of the internship, and to submit a final essay on STEM ethics following their internships. We anticipate a total time commitment from them to be approximately 14 hours, and we're emphasizing that the essays are solely for the research purposes and will not have any impact on their internship evaluations. For the methodology, we employ the critical incident technique, where a participant is to locate and recognize specific actual behaviors and evaluate them as ethical issues. And we will use both qualitative and quantitative analysis to assess the efficacy of the pedagogical approach. The study will last 4 years, and we're targeting about 440 students. Over 80% will come from Florida Polytechnic, which is a rural, small, mainly educational institution. And the other 20% will be recruited from the University of South Florida, which is, in contrast, a large metropolitan research one university.
So my fellow researcher, Dr. Grisselle Centeno, talked about 3 essays that were part of the study design. One of the essays is the Volkswagen emissions case study. This essay is presented in the workshop, and students will be asked to participate by answering specific questions regarding the study. Students will be asked to put themselves into the position of a manager or an engineer in this specific case study. The Volkswagen emissions scandal was was in 2015, and what occurred was engineers and managers knowingly fooled customers and regulations inspectors by creating a system where emissions, when tested, would appear to be lower than they actually were when the car was in use. Students would be asked to answer the following questions to the right regarding this case study. What do you take to be the issues this case raises? What do you take to be the ethical issues in this case? Imagine yourself working as a Volkswagen engineer at the time Volkswagen was trying to figure out how to satisfy customers who wanted an environmentally friendly car, but knowingly that the current VW diesel car could not satisfy the Clean Air Act requirements without cheating in some way. What do you think you would have done if your engineering manager strongly urged you to help come up with an emissions control system like the one VW eventually implemented? And finally, in deciding what to do, explain the reasoning behind your decision. 120 students at Florida Polytechnic University were presented with this case study, and answers were collected. The team looked over the answers to determine how to evaluate during the workshop the student responses. What I have for you on this slide is an example of one of the student responses from Florida Polytechnic University. This student answered, "I would personally not do it unless I couldn't afford to lose my job. I think it's clear that every engineer who participates in an illegal activity knowingly is guilty in some regard. Situations like this can bind your hands together, though, and the pressure put on you by the company to keep your job may be hard to look past. It's wrong to knowingly design a customer product that is intentionally lying, misleading, and ultimately harming the environment. It's not a slight lie. It's creating something out of regulation and claiming it's safer than the average vehicle. I don't think anyone would truly want to be involved in engineering like this unless they held some strong pressure to do so." During this research project, unfortunately, COVID-19 started. COVID-19 complications with this project included reduction in student internships due to COVID-19, student internships becoming fully remote due to COVID-19. There was discussion amongst the team with alteration of the engineering ethics training workshops from in-person to a remote format or a hybrid. In addition, there's been delay with this project. There's been alteration of the project timeline overall due to COVID-19.
So we're hopeful despite these challenges, that things will get back to some semblance of normal going forward, and that our students will actually be able to participate in normal STEM internships over the summer, and further we'll be able to conduct the formal intervention as expected. Again, we have a hybrid model, so that will facilitate participation by students both physically and remotely. So we are hopeful that we'll begin to collect meaningful data and contest the formal efficacy of our, again, research intervention. And we look forward to sharing those results with you, and that we will begin the process of developing more ethical STEM professionals. In addition to this outcome, there are some other broader impacts that we hope to result from our efforts. One, just the improvement in STEM education and educator development. That is developing new tools or approaches or pedagogy to aid in the development of ethical STEM professionals. Secondly, and this is a result of this development of more ethical STEM professionals, that is improving the well-being of individuals in society. That is those that our STEM professionals will be serving as they practice their craft. Next, increased partnerships between academia and industry, realizing that we both play an important role in the development of STEM professionals. And finally, through our research, we are augmenting or increasing the number and the participation of women and other underrepresented minorities in the STEM profession. We thank you for your attention and encourage you to reach out to us and provide feedback. The main point of contact will be my colleague, Dr. LeFrancois, and here you have her email address. Again, thank you for your viewing of our presentation, and we look forward to hearing from you.